Welcome to the LongBox Paradox, episode 39. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and to all those affected by Hurricane Dorian, I hope you all made it through safe and sound with little damage. Got very lucky where I live that we only got a grazing blow of a Category 2. Unfortunately, people in the Bahamas suffered the full brunt on 3 direct hits as a Category 5. So my thoughts and prayers go out to all of those affected. It's horrible. Boy, that's a down moment to talk about and start this. It was a fairly big week comic-wise. I got a late start because my work just reopened, so I did a 17-hour shift. From Image Comics, Die number 7 came out. For those who have watched, it's a favorite of mine, and pretty much whenever it comes out, I'll probably be reviewing it or discussing it. This one in particular, slower issue, did a little bit more character development. It focused on Chuck and Izzy, and following up with them after they left Glasstown. Izzy had asked the Skywatcher to teleport all of those in Glasstown, the refugees, and her and Chuck, and the Skywatcher basically threw them to the other side of Die. And Izzy is basically writing everything that's gone on, and basically how she's the God's representative in the world, and how her relationship with the upstairs may be all business, but the people believe in her. She can't fail them. Her plan will work. And Chuck comes over and sees what she's writing and starts telling her that writing is boring. And, he's a hack writer. And he basically is like saying, writing a story because you feel you have to is just self-indulgent bullshit. Be a professional. Only ever write for the money. And she's getting upset with him, and he throws her journal into a puddle of piss. So Izzy gets pissed off and, basically tells him that he's got to learn there's consequences for his actions. She calls Mistress Woe and asks what she'd owe to for her to play with Chuck. And basically she wants to teach him a lesson. And Mistress Woe decides that she'll do it for the rights of bragging, since Chuck is a lucky fool. Again, this episode, or this issue, does not ever reveal what his ability is, other than he's lucky. Chuck ends up going out and getting shit-faced with a bunch of dwarves, and the first part of his curse for Mistress Woe is a hangover, and they're in the desert and there's no water. They end up finding an oasis, and also revealed that the elf queen that we saw briefly in issue 2, the real one shows up, not the fallen one, and Chuck is hitting on her, and then he's getting drunk with the dwarves again, and they're talking about their backstory, and we find out the whole thing is part of Mistress Woe's plan. She's using a Titan as part of the revenge. And Chuck ends up going and fighting the Titan. And his luck wins out. He kills the Titan. Ends up feeding the people with Titan meat. He hooks up with the Elf Queen. And as that's happening, Chuck starts kind of talking about his ex-wives. And we get a little bit of insight into kind of what a special type of asshole he is, and how he's treated his wives. And then the Elf Queen kind of disappears on him, a little bit insulted. And basically Mistress Woe is like, the lessons learned. And basically there's a stream of blood coming from his most beloved toy. And then Chuck's like, knowing something isn't learning something. And Mistress Woe is saying, I like you, little monster. Isabel has set up a meeting with Lord Zamoma, who also is kind of a refugee. And they drop a bomb right at the end that basically Ash is killed Saul, and who knows what she's up to now. And he says, she's made her way to Angria, where she is recruiting allies, including making terribly good friends with my lovely boy. So Zamoma is the father of Ash's child, and he's also a vampire. As we see, or I think he's a vampire. He has fangs, and making a little allusion to Vampire the Masquerade, because he says, yes, let's end this masquerade. After all, we're all monsters here. This is very much a setup issue. It does add some character development to Izzy and Chuck. Chuck's a little bit still a frustrating character because there's so much mystery around him. This isn't my favorite issue of the series. I understand why this issue is as it is. It's going to build up to whatever issue 5 is going to be, because that'll be the end of this arc. Which also they've shown solicits for that cover, and the Emma Rios one is kind of fantastic, as well as the Stephanie Hans one. I'm going to go with 6.5 or 7 on this. Still an interesting issue, but it kind of lacked some of the excitement the other ones have. But again, second issue straight, they're dropping a bomb right at the end, and this is all leading up to Ash. Decisions Ash has made coming back to haunt him, her. It's still a buy for me. This whole series has been a buy straight up. If you're trade waiting, I'm sure there's going to be nice extras for you in it. And then we're going to move on to the much delayed, rather aggravating to a degree because of the delays, Doomsday Clock number 11. And you have to really, really read what's going on in this issue. Again, I complain about the delay. Gary Frank's art is phenomenal. It's on point. Geoff Johns finally starts tying together all these loose threads that have been dropped throughout the series, which, again, I need to go back and reread the whole thing before issue 12, because there are some threads that maybe I'm missing. It starts out with Batman stopping some people from pushing a button to basically cause possibly a nuclear holocaust. They're at launch controls. Alfred's reading Rorschach's journal, and there's dialogue going on about what's going on in the world, how it's heading towards, nuclear annihilation, the supers, the people turning on them. Wonder Woman is fighting Giganta, the Creeper, and Black Adam. The art by Gary Frank on these pages is just fantastic. And it keeps jumping around. Lois Lane, we pick up that thread with her, with Lex, after he's talking about, have you heard about Wally West? And he's kind of explaining things and about how he was shot. Ozymandias is visiting Cosmic Girl, and he's basically watching everything on the TVs going on, kind of reminiscent of what happened in the original Watchmen. Also, Johnny Thunder's there in his own little cage. And Lex shows Lois a picture of John Osterman and his old wife. It's the one from Watchmen before he gets turned into Dr. Manhattan. And he starts explaining how, he saw Wally and Flash basically find each other after Rebirth, and lying there in the grass with a photograph of John and his first wife. And that they keep finding these, like a bread trail, the same picture in all these different places, different years. And as that's going on, Superman, soldiers find him, and Cosmic Girl and Ozymandias are having a back and forth dialogue. And we finally see Ozymandias, and Gary Frank draws like the character turn on him, where he gets this sinister look on his face. This book jumps around. Alfred goes to see the new Rorschach, and he's having nightmares about what happened to his father. And Alfred brought him pancakes because he loved pancakes. He freaks out. And this whole time, basically, Ozymandias is basically going through his master plan, explaining everything going on, and what he's been doing, what his plan is, how Mime and Marionette are involved, and they actually reveal who their son that they alluded to, who became a great man, was. I don't want to ruin the surprise because it plays into Watchmen lore, and I don't understand the time threads on it, how that works, or how old Mime and Marionette are supposed to be. I don't know. I'm real confused on that, but the cutaway they did to the family name, absolutely 100% fascinating. Yeah, so basically Ozymandias talks about how he's going to save both of the worlds and how he's going to do it, and his new plan, and how he's set up everything to this point with Firestorm and this big showdown that's going to happen, and how basically now the timeline's altered. Cosmic Girl starts disappearing. I have to say, Geoff Johns has written Ozymandias more sinister, more, I wouldn't say complicated, but and the way Gary Frank is drawing it shows more of this facial turn and emotion. And even Superman on the last page, he's meeting up with Dr. Manhattan, and Superman just looks super pissed off. No meaning for the pun. This was a great issue. Again, you have to really take the time and read every panel, every word balloon. The only thing I am now worried about is how can this all wrap up in one more issue? I mean, I'm sure it's double-sized. But as much as this tied the threads together, there is so much they got to clean up in this, and I'm fascinated by how this is going to end. I don't say this often. This is a 10 out of 10. This just fascinating how they're tying it all together. And of course, the last issue, how is it going to play into Rebirth or unravel Rebirth? Great issue. Again, Gary Frank's art, and Geoff Johns, given this amount of issues, and again the amount of time and hiatuses in between issues has been frustrating. And this is going to make a great hardcover or omnibus or absolute edition once it's published and the series finishes, to just sit and read all the way through, and especially in an oversized, and really get the breadth of Gary Frank's art. I can't say enough about Gary Frank's art. Just the growth of him as an artist, and I don't know if it's possible, but I feel like he might be underappreciated. Just the amount of detail he puts in, and I'm not sure if he inks his own work or if he has someone else in. And everything pops, every emotion in the face, the line work, just great stuff. I can't say enough. And Geoff Johns, he's still a masterful writer. It's just a shame that this has been so delayed. But buy. Even if you buy the individual issues, I recommend when it comes out, just buy the big-ass hardcover, because just to have it, the ease of reading it all in one shot, in one volume, and also if it's an oversized version with Gary Frank's art, it'll be worth every damn dime of it, and I will be buying it. And hopefully in November this will actually be out. I'm not really optimistic about it. I have a feeling we'll probably see it in the new year instead of November, but I could be wrong. And next we have from Boom Studios, Something is Killing the Children, by James Tynion and art by Werther Dell'Edera. This is one of those issues that all of a sudden it gained heat. Just all of a sudden everybody was talking about it, and then at Final Order cutoff, the Jenny Friesen cover popped up, and fuck, it's an amazing cover, and it is the one to get. Actually, this whole issue gained heat. It's sold out ahead of time. Should I say sold out through Diamond ahead of time. You could still get it. The Friesen cover is actually secondary market heated up. I've seen anywhere from 30 to 35 for it. The issue starts out with a simple game of truth or dare during a slumber party, and they're all kind of challenging each other. And James, they say, you know, what's the scariest thing you've seen? And he talks about something he saw in the ravine. It's just something he made up. And as the truth or dare, they dare them to go out and go to the ravine. And then there's a time jump, and he's being questioned by the police. And, you know, he said, like, I made up the story. The monster wasn't real. And, you know, he swears it wasn't real. And then he said he heard them screaming. And we do a jump to 2 weeks later. And there's a girl who she is in a wagon, and it looks like she's missing her legs, and she's got an eye patch. And the blonde girl who we've seen on the covers with two giant, like, machete-like swords comes out with a fang kind of, not handkerchief, so the tie down over her mouth, comes out of the forest, and she's just grabs water, doesn't say a word, and the little girl asks if she killed the monster. So this blonde with the swords is a monster hunter, and she gets a call to go to Archer's Peak afterward. James is basically now a pariah at his school, and everybody's blaming him for killing the kids. And, you know, there's a bully who goes after him, and, you know, he's saying that he killed them because they wouldn't sleep with him, because he's gay, and he ends up going to the principal's office. James is having a rough time at school, basically. And we jump again now to the blonde monster hunter. She gets into town. She finds James and talks to him, and then asks him what he really saw. And there's a pretty graphic scene of his friends being ripped apart as they show each and every one of them killed. And the creature they show is got like spider-like eyes. It's large. It's ripped them apart. It's got 4 legs, kind of like a spider. Interesting design. And then the monster hunter's like, there's a monster, I'm going to kill it. And James asks if he can help. And the issue ends. Pretty good intro issue. I am a sucker for horror books, and this is definitely a horror book. There is room for growth in it. James Tynion's writing, it's hit and miss with me sometimes. This was pretty good. It weaves a pretty intricate tale. Definitely leaves you wanting to know more about the monster hunter, who you see almost on the cover of every one of these books. Uh, the Friesen cover is the one to get. I kind of weirdly like the Jay Lee Jun Chung cover as well. I'm gonna give this an 8. Again, maybe because I'm a sucker for horror. I'm being the art is interesting. It's a little bit cartoony. It moves the story along well, which that is something I key in on when I'm reading a comic, and how the art can move the story even in parts where it's a little quiet, but you can follow along without really having words. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see more by this. And again, if you can find the Friesen cover, that's the one to go for. Anyway, with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching. I apologize for a little bit of an abbreviated episode, but not gonna lie, I'm super tired, and I'm just trying to keep to my schedule. I still have a ton of books I need to read. So like, comment, share, subscribe, and if there's something you think I should be talking about, hit me up in the comments. Take care. Bye.